So, all right, cool. All right, we're going to go over and talk about Herald now. Give me a second to set it up.
Apparently, I'm not allowed to delete stuff. So
No.
pick up my.
No, you're fine.
It's funny, but I think that the new Herald's actually better than the old Herald.
I think he is too. Like I was thinking about it, like from a perspective of you've got a base spellboard that's not spellboard battlefield that's larger. Like because the old Herald had to sort of ramp into that bigger battlefield, and while old Herald had in theory a bigger health pool because this can only take you up to if you play all consumed souls, you go to 22. So actually, it has a bigger health pool even because I think no, he could go to 24, right, in his old version.
I think 23.
23.
But I'm not sure. And you're not guaranteed that because you're gonna play um the consume spirit most often to reset the hunter's mark.
Correct.
So
That's
you may
what I
not get
played
the
around
full
with it.
heal out of it.
Right, that's how I played it. I was less worried about how much I could heal, and
But it's close enough to the same health pool that like this ability, even though they changed secret door, so you can't like secret door your things back, there are cards that like put them back.
Mhm.
So you could theoretically like play consume soul more times now than you could before.
Yep.
Because before there was only a conjuration pile of 3 for his like dark transformations.
Right.
So it didn't really do anything the 4th time.
Right.
But in new Ashes Reborn, you can potentially do it more times than that, and I think that's a corner case. But I think he's better because of that.
Right.
Because of the bigger battlefield.
Yeah, I agree. So okay, so let's talk about this. So I built a Herald deck. Really, it's a Herald Allies deck. It there's basically hey Ant, see you man, thanks, I appreciate it. You too. Okay, so with Herald, when I was looking at Herald's pile of cards, his Consume Soul obviously seemed really good to be able to get repeatable effects off of the Hunter's Mark. I had misread it. Obviously, I thought it was just attack damage, but it's actually any source of damage, which is even better than what I thought. And since the unit is when the unit is a target of attack, no guard can be declared. It really does allow you to just snipe your opponent's units off the board favorably.
Right. That second line of text is even more important than the double damage. Like
yeah, but so when I was playing Small Sacrifice, just to add to this, I thought Small Sacrifice was just going to be 1 for 1, right? 1 point of damage for 1, but it's actually 2 points of damage for 1, so it's even better than I thought. So like knowing that information, obviously I became very much in love with Small Sacrifice here. I never got to its focus ability, but I'm not sure you care in this deck. But I guess there could be circumstances where you could exhaust a Fallen to exhaust a bigger unit out of combat. But with playing Hunter's Mark and Small Sacrifice, I'm not sure you would ever need to focus it. So maybe 3 copies of Small Sacrifice is 2 cards that could come out of this deck, and in favor of like 2 more like allies that are cost effective. So sort of where I started when I started building this deck was number 1, how do I make a bunch of Fallens? Number 2 is how do I make Fallens have 2 power so that Hunter's Mark trades up, right? So I can go, okay, I got 2 power and I can hit 4 defense units. Your 4 defense units you're talking about, that's what I wanted to be able to remove with removal. Hunter's Mark them, remove them with, a Fallen or, some low cost, low to the ground unit, and let my bigger units sort of finish off the Phoenixborn. I never saw that really materialize quite as well as I thought it would, but it was on par. The other option was, okay, I can then still Small Sacrifice. I could still have Small Sacrifice to be able to, kill a Fallen, do 1 damage to one of my larger units, and in exchange for that, I could, play Fester on the back end of that to take out a big unit. So, like, if you've got, something that's really outside of that 4 realm, like Archosauruses or Iron Rhinos, I had the opportunity to kill those with the cost of a card and a die. And obviously, it costs more than that because I have to use the small sacrifice, but it's sort of a removal tool that was in the arsenal for decks that had more health on them. I think your deck had a lot of health on it, but this deck did exactly what I wanted to do with units that have 4 toughness. And so
I
you're
think
right.
in general, Fester is one of the best reborn cards that they for ceremonial. Like,
I
because that's not what it used to do, right? It used to do something way weird.
It just put a poison counter on them, so they just ticked up
Yeah,
damage while they were poisoned. So every turn they
this
would.
is way better.
This is super much better, yes. So like, I
Not that that one was bad, but
so
this
this
one
deck
is.
started with Anchornauts because I thought, well, Anchornaut and Fester are a great combo. Anchornaut's like another version of Small Sacrifice. But ultimately, they got cut because I didn't have anything really proactive to do with Anchornauts, short of just letting Fallen tokens land, and I wasn't sure how consistent I would be on getting 2 Fallens. So one Fallen is okay. One Fallen book is okay. 2 Fallen books is where you're getting in a real advantage, and obviously 3 Fallen books is probably just insane. But I knew I had to get to the second Fallen book, and I didn't know how long that would take. And I didn't want to aggressively meditate as much as I did in this game because there was a chance that the Fallen books would end up in the bin. And then I didn't get them to do their thing, which would take out kind of one whole component of a card choice in this deck. Turns out that maybe this is not necessary, but maybe it still is. I don't know yet.
The the Fallen books are interesting because a couple streams ago we were talking about Chant of Revenge, and I was like trying to figure out what ceremonial got that like worked on the plan, and Fallen book is the answer. Like,
right. That's
we didn't have the new Fallen book at that time yet, but
yeah.
it is like what Chant of Revenge or Chant of Worship or whatever, like all those ones that you think are going to be good. This one is the good one.
Yes, I agree. I think this is way better than just about anything else in ceremonial right now. I mean, obviously there are other things that are not strictly ceremonial that are good. Grave Knight is insane. So here was my thoughts. Okay, so number one, I knew the decks, not that just you would play, but decks that would be out there in the world would have lots of 3/4s in them. Right? We know that that's sort of the gold standard for units in this game now. And so I was like, how do I deal with 3/4s? How do I deal with them? Well, number one, the best way to deal with 3/4s is to exchange with them for something that costs less, right? So if I don't have to spend as much resources, to play something that can deal with them, then I'm able to deal with it. Well, obviously Herald does that, right? Herald goes, all right, I don't spend any resources. Here's a hunter's mark. Now I'm going to go attack you with my two attack guy, and I spent 1 die to do that and a card to kill your guy that you spent 3 dies and a card on. So that was sort of the thought process that started this whole thing. And then from there, I added the gravity training because I was sitting there and I was like, okay, well, Fallen can't do what I want them to do. So if Fallen are going to be in this deck, I need a way for Fallen to go up to the 4 defense guy, right? Like I don't want to have to commit 2 Fallen to the 4 defense guy. I want to commit 1 Fallen to the 4 defense guy. And so gravity training just did exactly what I wanted to do there. I ended up using it on the Grave Knight and the Holy Knight, which I thought I might, but then I also thought that might be a mistake. But just the way I set up my opening 5s, it just was easier to pump up the Grave Knight. And in game 1, I pumped up the Holy Knight. I'm on the fence about Holy Knight right now, but that's a topic for maybe a little bit later here. So anyways, that was sort of the plan. Obviously, Consumed Soul is super good. Should be played in every deck that has Herald. I don't see why you wouldn't. It's just a really good Phoenixborn card. I added the Blood Chains just in case I got out of sequence. It was a cheap die cost card that would allow me to...
card's super good.
It's so good, man. It just allows you to buy time, right? It just goes, okay, I've got...
I mean, it's essentially just sack a guy, kill a guy, right?
Right.
Like, and putting 2 exhaustion tokens on most of the units in the game just like essentially kills them.
Right, exactly. But it only puts 2 on if your unit has a wound token on it. So it's only 1 exhaustion token if the unit if you just destroy 1 for 1. But I still think that's just fine because there's going to be ways for you to take their biggest threat after you've sort of had to.
Right. It's okay as a tempo play, especially when you have the Fallen. But
Mhm.
like you have the small sacrifice and the meteor to like do the powered up version at
Right.
your own pace.
Right. That's sort of the overall thought. So, and then obviously we talked about Fester. I added the Rising Hordes because this is kind of it's kind of a dumbed down version of the Ancestral Army you played last week, which was, Ancestral Army got you two Ancestral Armies alongside the card. In this case, I just turn a 1/1 into two 1/1s, which is just kind of a card advantage engine. It also triggers its own the Summon Fallen, which means that I can play another Fallen off of it, so I still can essentially sort of end up in a wider board state just because of the Rising Horde. So I thought this card was just fine, and it's the kind of card that I want a small sacrifice for damage. So yeah, I was happy about that. Sonic Swordsman was a card that I said, okay, this is a side action ally. This has to be good. The fact that it has Quick Strike is just kind of like icing on the cake. And because it's 2 attack, it's doing exactly what this deck wanted to do to trade into those 4 defense.
Quick strike creatures and Herald seem very powerful.
Very, very strong. Yes. So I was so happy with Sonic Swordsman. Probably, the top performer in this deck for sure. I know I got a lot of use out of Grave Knight, but to me,
that dude's way better in your deck than Holy Knight or Horde.
I agree. Yeah, I agree completely. So I also had another version of this deck, but I was worried about dice costs and efficiency per turn because I'm going to be using dice a lot for non-cards in hand play. For example, if I've got Fallen triggers, Gravity Training, Small Sacrifice, all those things are essentially cards in hand for me that require dice. So I was looking at my board state going, I'm going to have 3 out of my 10 dice potentially being used every round just for my ready board. So because of that, like there's not situational uses for these other than maybe the Summon Fallen. And so I was sitting there going, okay, well, that means I got to work off of 7 dice. And 7 dice means that I really only have the ability to play one of the big guys in general. If I'm searching to make improvements to this deck, number one, Grave Knight was a top performer in the games, but I don't think it's necessary in order to win the way I was playing today.
Right. Grave Knight, I think, is very comparable to all the guys that I was playing and like Hammer Knight. Like the 4/3s and 3/4s are all very interchangeable, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Though obviously he was on color for you.
He was on color, and the Overkill one was not nothing, and that's what I looked at it as, because I couldn't play Hammer Knight in this deck without switching over to Nature. So I said, okay, cool, like Grave Knight's going to be my guy. I wanted to test the new Holy Knight. Obviously, I was a big fan of Holy Knight in 1.0. This card feels way dumbed down and way overcosted compared to other 3 mana units. So this would be the first card I will cut as Holy Knight. I'm not sure what I'm going to look for here.
I still think Holy Knight is good. It's just like, so it suffers from River Scald being a thing. Which,
for sure.
Because it used to not get shot by River Scald, and now it does.
Yep.
And that's probably going to be like one of the most common things that shoots it, like tries to kill it out of combat.
Yep.
So that hitting it is a big nerf.
It also doesn't. It also is not safe to AOE effects, right? I don't think it was safe to AOE effects in 1.0 either, but it's just that much more stuff that can sort of hit it. So I'm less inclined to want to spend 3 mana on Holy Knight. In fact, you saw me not recur Holy Knight a number of times that it was sitting in my bin because I knew almost immediately after I played it that it was just no longer going to be a card. It was fine as an opener, like because I didn't have a huge dice requirement in my opener, and a lot of these cards sort of require board presence in order to get you to a final position of victory. So it just gave me the ally, but I think I would just rather have a 2 attack ally in this spot that doesn't cost as many dice. And I don't know what that is right now. I mean, maybe somebody can make some suggestions in comments or chat, but I also was really close to playing Summon Sleeping Widows in this deck, but ran out of room, so I cut it. I think Summon Sleeping Widows is also really good when you got 12 allies because it just gives you 2/2/1s, which goes right back to what we were talking about on the swordsman. And the beauty of the Widow is you can defend with a unit. So like I think you have to have a unit guard to really push them up. But any unit dies on defense, you make 2/2/1s that your opponent can't deal with. Generally speaking, they can't deal with, and so having those 2/2/1s is just almost the same as sort of the speed of playing a swordsman. So like getting 2/2/1s on the widows and then turning around and playing swordsman the next turn and attacking for 6, and you did that all on basically 3 dice. That's a really good 3 dice trade, right? Like that's a good efficient set of plays. So I think that I'm going to try to figure out how to get Widows back into this deck. I mean, one of the problems with Widow is that they just die to meteors, but I think...
Right. Your deck is like 2 half decks.
Yeah.
Like, it has meteors in it, but you're also fallen, so I don't think that's a very good combo, but...
the way I looked at it...
cut the meteors and put in your Summon Widows, that's what you want to play.
Yeah, but I do think the Widow or the Meteor is really good for board clearing states that are difficult, and there are times when you don't have a big board state. So, and also I think you just can get to a place where like if I just attack outright with like for 6, like I just talked about with Swordsman and 2 Widows, those Widows and Swordsmen are doing nothing for me for the rest of the round. And so if it turns into the most advantageous play after you play some big guy again, because I've essentially given you a free pass to go a certain amount of time in the round before you need to attack, right? Because I've exhausted my whole board. And so I feel like there's an opportunity in there where opponent may feel it's safe to go ahead and drop a couple of units, right? Because they feel like they have some time to do that. And so Meteor sort of says, well, I'm not getting any more value out of my 2 Fallen and my Swordsman, but if I Meteor the whole board, I trigger Summon Fallens, I wipe your whole board out, which triggers Consume Soul, so like there's still some synergy there, even though it feels like anti-synergy. I know it's not necessarily super great, and I definitely don't want to be like 3 for 2ing, right? Like I don't want to lose 2 Fallen and a Swordsman, but I mean, it's just something to think about. I'm not ready to cut Meteor from the list is what I'm getting at quite yet. I'm probably going to cut down on the small sacrifices because I just don't think the focus ability matters in this list with Herald. So I can cut 2 small sacrifices out, at least for 2 Summon Widows. I also found Fester to be more situational than I anticipated it would be. So I probably will go down to 2 Fester to get
I think
third Widow.
Fester is better than Meteor for what you're trying to do.
Maybe.
Because you're essentially like only worried about, big threats, because you should be able to like trade for little threats easy.
See, I think I trade big threats easy. Little threats are more of a problem for me. Because
don't you make more little threats than them? Like
maybe. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but the little... Well, you were playing all big threats, so I don't know. I mean, like another little threat deck might be more powerful because you could play Rymia like last week, right? She just has a small spell board, and do very similar things to what we're talking about, like just small sacrificing units to deal damage, and but the Hunter's Mark in particular is only really good against fighting big units. It's only good for tall units. So, like, a 1/1 getting marked does 0 for you, right? Like, a 1/2 does sort of matter for the mark because then you can trade 1/1s into 1/2s, but you're still trading, 1-to-1 there, and you're really not... The efficiency difference between the 2 decks is pretty substantially reduced. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think obviously I feel like I'm onto something with this deck. I really like this deck. It's a deck that, I like the Soraya deck last week a lot as well. And so I think that I've learned a few things from playing both Ceremonial and Charm. And obviously one of the things I learned is Scald is really problematic. So one way you might fight Scald is, if your opponent's planning to shoot big units, if you don't give them big units to shoot, they can't shoot them. Well, they can, but it's not anywhere near as good, right? Like if they're shooting a Rising Horde...
River Scald was definitely the best thing I was doing against you.
Sure.
All the things I was doing.
I totally agree, but I was still giving you reasonable targets to do that too with Grave Knight and Hollow Knight. Holy Knight. So anyways, I think that there's lots of different reasons why I like this deck, but I think that Herald is a Phoenix Born that's very proactive, and this game sometimes feels like it's a lot of reactionary stuff. So Scald is a very proactive card, of course. Like Echo feels very reactionary, right? When we talk about Echo,
I did not like him very much.
his
He just
ability
didn't
is
seem like
so his loyalty card's really good though, right? So you kind of end up
it's
in
okay.
yeah,
You have to make a clogged board state for Chaos Gravity to be good,
right,
and that kind of never happened in our game.
sure,
And I think that it's going to happen less in Reborn than it did in 1.0.
sure.
So like, I think like obviously I even against you, who's like supposed to be going real wide, I still would have rather had uh Odette
Sure.
loyalty card that just kills one guy.
Sure. No, I that's
Then
fine. I just again, I that's just kind of my takeaways from it. I think the widows are obviously very good in this deck, and probably just need to have a slot dedicated somewhere, which will require some difficult decisions to be made. But 30 cards just ends up not being very much when you get down to the bottom of it. So,
well, if we're playing in person next week, I got something real not fun to play. So
okay, that's fair.
but I don't want to play it on Tabletop Simulator.
Okay. That's cool. I'm excited. I'm hoping we get to play in person next week. We should be in the clear by next week. So, yeah. So I appreciate everybody that subbed tonight. I mean, geez, like you guys just like blew us away.
Everybody, I know a bunch of them were my personal friends, and I am very, very thankful for your audience and follows and subs and everything you do. Anybody that is followed our channel that doesn't know me personally or has subbed to our channel, like, thank you so much.
Yeah, I think Mad Magician. We don't know Mad personally, right? Because he also subbed tonight. I don't know if it didn't ding on us because I really tried, but there was kind of a moment in there where everything sort of blew up all at once. So I can't tell you for sure.
That hype train.
That hype train got a little crazy. So I just appreciate everybody who sticks it out with us. Obviously, we started this game about what have we been? 6 weeks doing this now? Maybe
Ashes.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, but really, we haven't. I mean, we've played probably 5 or 6 matches, is all right. Like, really, maybe 7. But I start to feel like I'm getting a much firmer grasp of the card pool. Obviously, Reborn changes everything, but we've been playing with proxies, so we've sort of seen powerful things happening. I just look forward to continuing this. We're both doing the Ashes International League. It starts on the 22nd of November, which is a TTS tournament. I think you guys, if you're an Ashes fan or you're not an Ashes fan, but you want to give it a try, this is a really kind of the best way to do it. TTS is free. If you join the Ashes Discord, the files for this table that we use today are available, so I'll be happy to share that. I'm going to be working on trying to build proxies off of the cards that Covenant spoiled yesterday, that round out and finalize everything. So we should have the full Reborn proxies next week, and we'll just keep exploring decks. I think I'm going to try a Fiona deck sometime soon, man. I don't know what to think of her yet. I don't know if she's very good or not.
I don't even remember what she does. Oh, she's the one that, like, you discard a card to draw a card, or you discard a card to ready a ready spell.
Yeah, 1 second, I'll tell you here.
Yeah. Her loyalty card is sweet.
Yeah. I'm not seeing
Lost in the Maze or something.
Yeah, it's a side action exhaust, discard a card, draw 1 card, or remove one exhaustion token from a ready spell you control. I think that might be really powerful. That remove an exhaustion token from a ready spell. I'm not sure how to like push the extremes on that yet, but I'm gonna see what I can do. I don't know. She seems solid.
She's the deck that all my favorite cards came from.
Okay. Yeah, New Orders.
They've all changed.
Yeah,
of course, because she had the discard outlet for the crickets and for the new ideas.
So her Mind Maze is the loyalty card, and it's just a main and a side, 1 basic, and discard a card. Discard this card, lost. Discard this unit at the end of the round. So
you put it on your opponent's guide. They can't attack or block or do things.
Right.
And then they have to discard a card, use
a basic die
actions on a turn,
and a basic die
and to kill it.
Get rid of Mind Maze, and if they don't get rid of Mind Maze, then at the end of the turn the unit dies.
Yeah,
Seems good.
it's an obnoxious card for sure.
I think that's the sort of thing you want to be trying. I don't know what I'm going to pair her with yet. Probably definitely looking at ways to draw lots of cards because she has a lot of discard fuel, so she probably feels best in Sympathy. I think that's what New Orders does. Of course, New Orders now draws you 3 cards. It's kind of a cycle card, if I remember right.
It nets you 2 cards. You have to put a card back, and then you draw 3.
Yeah, let me double check that.
It's put a card from your hand on top or bottom if you do draw 3.
Choose 1 card in your hand and place it on the bottom of your draw pile if you do draw 3 cards. Yeah.
You don't even get to put it on top.
No.
So
you net 2 cards.
Right.
And we've talked about cycling, right? Like in looting, and this is a loot card.
It's slightly better than, well, it's 50-50, right? If you have a bunch of cards in hand, it's way better than drawing 2. If you don't have very many cards in hand, it's worse than drawing 2.
Absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt.
But it's obviously not as good as the way it used to be where you just like discarded it and drew a card for free, but it's still pretty good. That's a card that I almost played in today's deck.
Yeah. I just have to figure out what I'm going to summon in those colors. I guess it doesn't matter. You can pick any color, but maybe the Mirror Spirits are good. I don't know. That's hard to say.
If you're trying to play Sympathy, which you don't have to.
No.
The ones are Crickets or Stallion.
I think I want to try to take advantage of the Stallions, but you're going to have to defend them. And Steadfast Guardian, is that in Divine?
It's Divine and Charm.
Divine and Charm.
One Divine class, one Charm class.
Yeah. So, all right. Well,
but you get to like this is what God, I can't remember the guy's name that was in our chat last week or the week before that was talking about Stallion. You get to like you draw a card because Stallion draws a card when you do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you draw a card, make a Stallion. Then you can side action use the Fiona power to ready the Stallion, like to make another Stallion.
Yeah.
And
seems good.
You've essentially because the Stallion draws you a card, you've like made up for the difference.
Yep. Shout out to NIU Math for the follow, man. Appreciate it. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Just wanted to make sure Math got the follow. So that's super awesome of you. We appreciate that.
But yeah, I think Stallion's probably fine. Most of the time, it's going to be a 1/3, but like it probably can get out of control. It sucks that the Conjuration pile is only 2.
I think I got to look at like something to unit guard it because it's going to have to be sticky, and it as a 1/3, it's not going to be very sticky. Like we know that. So obviously, Phoenix Born can guard once, unit guard can guard the second one. So you kind of got to use your health pool and probably a unit guard unit of some sort. So that's why I was thinking about Steadfast Guardian, but maybe it's just okay to play like Gilder or something like that alongside them. We'll see. I'll do some thought over that over the next week or so.
Gilder is a pseudo combo with it, right? Because it has inheritance.
Right. Exactly. That was where I was going with it. So
I still think Gilder's bad, but it that's about like the best case scenario where you get to protect the Stallion and make it bigger.
Yeah, that's the thought, right? And then you can ready Gilder even if you needed to with Fiona. That doesn't seem great, but after
make a bunch of Gilders.
Yeah, but after you've got 2 Stallions on the board, right? Because it's a conjuration limit too. Like just playing Gilders to protect Stallions doesn't seem terrible. So we'll see. I'm gonna dink around with that this week. Fiona is an interesting ability, and I just wonder how to abuse it. And I don't think herself is particularly solid, but Mind Maze is obviously a very good card for tempo, which is what the deck feels like it needs in order to get set up. So we'll see. But all right, well, we managed to fill a couple hours. We had a bunch of subs tonight and a bunch of new follows. I super appreciate all of the love, and look forward to being back in person next week and having an opportunity to beat Neil. Neil's flipping tables because he's mad about tonight now. Wow, man. Wow. Just sad. This is your last chance to do it because we probably won't be on TTS again unless we have another.
I'll just do it in real life next week.
I hope not. It's a big table.
A lot of expensive camera / lighting equipment around.
Yeah, exactly. It's more the lights and camera that I'm more worried about than the table, but it is what it is. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you, everybody. We appreciate all the support and love, and we'll see you soon.